Back to another Eduro Learning Facebook Live. Today our topic is our top 10 tips for a connected classroom, and I'm super excited to share some of these tips with you because they are things that I have learned over many years of connecting my classroom, and kind of putting them all together into a top 10 list was really fun. I did it for myself on this little note over here, so if you see me looking over to the side, you will see that I'm looking at my notes. And I also did a little bit of a call out to my own personal learning network to see what they had to say, see if my ideas and their ideas kind of merged. So I will thank all of the people who helped me with this list at the very end of the Facebook Live session today. But connecting your classroom is so exciting, and I kind of think there's two pathways to connecting your classroom, and I did want to address that really quickly first. I think there's the connecting your classroom where you're connecting your students to each other. So that's kind of like within the four walls of your classroom, you're connecting your classroom digitally so that you can blend learning both in your face-to-face setting and digitally. And then there's connecting your classroom to the world. And I think these 10 tips kind of fit for both of those, but lean a little more towards the global collaboration piece. So I'm going to try to share my 10 tips in descending order. I hope I'm not going to mess myself up by adding some descending numbers to my message this morning, but I will give it a try. So I'm going to start with number 10. My 10th tip is to start small. Try something that you know you're going to be successful with, so that will build on your success as you move forward. So start with something easy, something that doesn't feel too scary to you. Maybe it's just a little step into having a class Twitter account, or something small that feels manageable for you. My step number 9 is, or tip number 9, tip number 9 is to window shop, to explore other connected classrooms, to see what they're doing, to see what other projects are out there, to kind of get an idea of what other classrooms are doing, to also see how they set up their online spaces, to see potentially if there are other classrooms that might be interested in working with you. So kind of do that window shopping to see what's going on in other classes around the world. As you're doing your window shopping, you might also want to think about my step number 8. Here we go, which is making a home base for your classroom. So this can be any tool you want. It can be a Google site, it can be a classroom blog, it can be a Wix page, it doesn't matter, but an online home base for your classroom where all of the documents, all of the resources, all of the videos or links or anything you want to share with your students, and all of the ways that you want them to connect and share with each other is in one central place. And this is really, really important, because when you start connecting your class digitally and you're sharing with a wider audience, it can become really like unmanageable really fast if you don't have one central place for everything. So I think that home base is really important to keep you organized, to help keep your kids on track, because if they're not sure what to do next, for example, you can always point them back to that home base. And it's a really great window into learning for the parents of the students in your classroom. So if you have that one kind of central space where all of the resources, all of the ideas, all the student work is kind of leading towards, that's a great way to keep things organized and to keep parents and students really well informed. Step number 7, I'm doing my math pretty good so far, is don't be afraid to use the same tool twice. So a lot of times as teachers, we tend to think, oh, I've already used Twitter. I keep sticking with my same example. I don't want to use Twitter anymore. I want to add something else to that. I want to keep doing something new. But actually, it's really a great idea to find a tool that really works and kind of go deeper with it throughout the course of the year or the project with your students, because you can actually find lots of different uses for the same tool once you get over the hurdle of knowing how to use it, especially more complex things like video editing or kind of building an audience in spaces like YouTube or something like that. So actually going deeper into the tool that you're using through your content, it may be more valuable than trying to use as many different tools as possible. I know we get excited when we hear about lots of different tools, but don't be afraid to stick with the ones that really work for you. Kind of the flip side of that, but alongside of that, still number Number 7 is don't be afraid to mix and match. If the tools that you want to use, it's not one tool doesn't do everything you need it to do, don't be afraid to mix and match and use multiple tools. Maybe that means you're using 3 or 4 tools consistently throughout the school year, and kids are getting really good at being able to collaborate, communicate, share, and use those tools effectively for learning. Okay, number 6. Kind of goes along with the home base, but keep parents informed about what you're doing, even if it's providing them an opportunity to sign up to a mailing list that goes automatically from your class blog that is your home base. Whatever way that you can kind of keep them involved and engaged in what's happening in your classroom, I think they will be really interested in seeing the learning that's going on. So providing that window to learning in your classroom and keeping parents involved is a great way to not only engage them in the learning that's happening in your classroom, but to also help them know what's going on with their children so that when they come home from school, they can kind of ask them more direct questions about what's going on in the classroom, and they can feel more involved in their child's life. All right, number 5, we're getting down to just one hand. Excellent. Number 5 is when you are connecting your classroom and you're using lots of digital tools and potentially you're having your students share with other students or people around the world beyond the 4 walls of your classroom, this is a perfect opportunity to bring in digital citizenship, to start having those conversations about how we behave in online spaces, how we can be respectful and responsible users of technology, and how we can be resilient in the face of adversity. Because oftentimes when we're sharing things in online spaces, the feedback isn't always perfect. The experience isn't always exactly what you expect. So taking this time as an opportunity to build in those digital citizenship skills is a really authentic way to have those conversations with your students for a purpose. Number 4. As you're thinking about what you want to do with your students in this connected environment, and maybe you're going to start with a specific project first, think about what's not working in your classroom. Instead of starting with a project that you love and goes really great every year and you know the kids love it and they learn so much and it's something that's really your favorite, instead of starting with something awesome, start with something that you struggle with, because there's room for improvement there, and maybe technology is the piece that can help support that improvement. So start with what's not working. Number 3 is, and I kind of almost feel like this goes without saying, but I wanted to make sure I put it in here, and it needs to be in my top 3, is start with your learning goals. Don't let technology take over. The idea of connecting your classroom isn't about how much tech you can use and how much time you can spend on your computer. It's about how can you transform learning by providing an authentic audience for your students, making learning relevant for them, or providing opportunities for them to be creative or to differentiate or individualize instruction. But that still starts with your learning goals. So no matter what you're doing with technology in your classroom, and especially if you're going for global collaboration, start with the learning first. Number 2 is find real connections. So a lot of times when you're doing a global collaboration, you're maybe not sure who you can partner with. So sometimes people will just kind of like look online and see if they can like find someone they can partner with. And that works. You can do that. It's much harder though. So if you can think about maybe a former colleague who's gone on to a different school, or a friend or a family member in another country, or a connection you have with other colleagues who know people in other countries, or connecting with me and seeing if I can help you find someone somewhere, try to find that real authentic connection that you have with somebody so that your class collaboration is a little bit more meaningful. You can maybe have a little bit more open and honest conversations with the person that you know already, and maybe you even have some like background information about them or about their class that you can bring into exploring this new global collaboration with your students. And my number 1 tip, my top tip for your global collaboration, is build your own PLN. You can do it first, you can do it at the same time, it doesn't matter, but I really encourage you to invest some time and energy in building a personal learning network, basically building that community of learners who is really passionate about teaching and learning the same way you are. And you can do it on whatever tools you want. You can use Twitter, you can use Facebook, you can use social networks, it doesn't matter, but building your own personal learning connection will help you see the value of asking your students to connect with others and it will help you understand kind of how it works so that you feel really confident when your students maybe come across something that's challenging. You might have experienced that yourself as well, and you know how to help them with that. So number one tip is build your own PLN. And I have a little bonus from my colleagues, my personal learning network, who filled in the survey for me and helped give me ideas for this. And it's jump in. Don't be afraid to start. Just give it a try. Even if it's something that seems like crazy and you've never done this before, give it a try and see how it goes. And as you do it, model that growth mindset. Model that being a learner for your students so they can see you trying and exploring and taking a risk and being a learner and learning something new and being passionate about your learning right in front of them so they can see that it's okay to do the same thing. All right, so now I'm going to tell you my top 10 tips. I'm going to try again to summarize them in descending order. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so number 10 is to start small. Begin with something easy so you have some success. Number 9 is to window shop, to look at other projects and other teachers and see what they're doing to get some ideas. Once you have your idea, number 8 is to build your home base for your class so that there's a central space for everything you want to share. Number 7 is don't be afraid to use the same tool consistently throughout the year or to mix and match tools if that one tool doesn't do everything you need. Number 6 is to make sure to keep parents informed so they know what's going on in your classroom. Number 5 is to use it as a way to incorporate digital citizenship. Number 4 is to start with what's not working instead of what's going great. Number 3 is like top 3, but kind of no-brainer. Start with the learning. Don't let tech take over. And number 2 is to find real connections with people you actually already know. And number 1 is to build your own PLN with that bonus of just jumping in, giving it a try, give it a start. If this is interesting to you, or you have some ideas, or you have some top tips, please drop them in the comments. We'd love to hear what you're interested in, and we'd love to hear what works for you as you're building your global classroom. And if this is something you want to learn more about, we have tons of opportunities for you. We have tons of free resources on the edurolearning.com website. We have our awesome new micro-credentials that are launching in a little under 2 weeks. And the one that this kind of targets is the connected teacher. And that micro-credential is all about exactly how to connect your classroom to each other and then to the world. So if this is something you really want to do and you're passionate about, but you haven't had the time to invest in and get it started, now is the time. Start with us in September. You'll get a mentor. They will help you go through the whole process from start to finish so that by the end of that micro-credential, your classroom is a globally connected classroom, which is super exciting. So thank you so much for joining me today, and we look forward to seeing you here in future Facebook Lives and in the comments and in our micro-credentials. We can't wait to learn with you. Have a great day.